Well, hello there, PJ here, and I just finished a big long post on quarantine and immune health, and it turned out to be so long that I figured I should just read it to you, because if you're like me, you don't like reading big long posts. You'd rather listen to a post while you go about your business, kind of like a podcast. And heck, I'll make this a podcast too. You remember when quarantines were only used for sick people? Yeah, that's because it's always been that way, except now, because this is the first time in the history of our nation that a quarantine, aka shelter in place, has been used for both sick people and well people. That makes this a big, huge experiment, albeit a super lame one that is horribly controlled, so it's far from scientific, which means both sides will be able to claim a victory. What do I mean by that? Well, you'll see, and here's how I see it playing out. One side of the spectrum will be claiming this quarantine saved us all, and had we not done this unprecedented lockdown, millions upon millions of people would have died, and the virus would have continued to wreak havoc on the world for decades to come. The other side will say that the lockdown had absolutely no effect on the infection or death rates, and, in fact, the countries, counties, and states who didn't close down proved that point by faring as well or better than those who did. Then there will be lots of people in the middle, adjusting toward one side or the other, based on what they believe to be true, and then repeating that narrative based on their ingrained biases and agendas. The bottom line is no one will really know. No one will be able to prove anything, because no one can see into the future or even guess what might have been if things were done differently. But one thing I do know is the effect of this lockdown will certainly have negative effects on our immune systems and can have disastrous effects on the infection rates of all kinds if certain steps aren't taken to prevent it. Here's how you can prepare for the reopening of the country and strengthen your immune system ahead of that event so you don't catch every little cold, flu, bacteria, and other bugs that come in contact with you. First, let's be clear that everyone gets sick, and there's no way to avoid every bug. There are people, though, who get sick more than others, and some, like me, who get sick so rarely we forget the last time that even was. Here's how to move further over to the side of people who rarely get sick and certainly are more resistant to the COVID-19 because of their stronger immune systems. The strength of anyone's immune system lies mostly in their gut flora balance and diversity, their gut microbiome. In fact, over 70% of your immune system strength is directly attributable to the health and status of your gut flora. Those little internal buggers protect you from outside buggers in a myriad of ways, ranging from killing off those bad bugs themselves to communicating with your other lines of defense in your body to help kill them there. The best way to have an optimized gut flora is to feed them with the right nutrients and tools to be as healthy, balanced, and diverse as possible. Diverse gut flora can fight a diversity of bad bugs. And if you help them, they're able to help you. When you eat real, organic food, your gut flora thrives on the fiber, soluble and insoluble, vitamins and minerals. Real and especially organic food is the best source for all this. Non-organic food often has pesticides, fertilizers, genetically modified components that all kill off your good gut microbes, throwing it off balance and slashing the diversity. There's something even worse than non-organic food, though. Guess what that is? Yep, processed food. If you're eating most of your food out of bags and boxes, you're decimating your gut flora and your immune system. It just so happens that what most people eat now in this lockdown is this processed food. So they're setting themselves up to catch lots of nasty bugs when they get out of their homes. Another huge way we get and maintain a strong immune system is through constant exposure to microbes. When we're consistently coming into contact with viruses and bacteria and other bugs, we're building and strengthening our immune system. We do this by shaking hands and sharing microbes, playing in the dirt, hugging people, kissing, talking, laughing, especially within 6 feet of each other. All those things we're avoiding right now. So that's another way we're decimating our immune system and setting it up for failure. We're also acting like OCD people, with all the incessant hand washing, hand sanitizer, spraying, wiping, disinfecting every surface, masks, gloves, and more, all contributing to preventing the natural and healthy exposure of the trillions of microbes we need to be in contact with every day in order to try to avoid the one bug we're so fearful of right now. If that whole OCD thing worked, then every clean freak OCD person wouldn't get sick more frequently than their dirtier friends, but they do. They get sick way more often because they're so focused on staying clean and sterile, they don't get the exposure necessary for proper immunity. This, of course, feeds their OCD, which makes them try to be even cleaner, which then perpetuates the problem. And then the Howard Hughes syndrome takes over, along with Munchausen and more. When we're cooped up inside, out of the sunshine, we're rapidly becoming deficient in vitamin D, which drastically weakens our immune system. Some health and medical experts even believe vitamin D should be reclassified as a hormone because it's so much more powerful than other vitamins, especially with its effect on our immune health. Since we're inside, out of the sun, and moving much less than we usually do, our hydration habits are also most likely suffering, as our thirst mechanisms are sending us fewer signals. Viruses and bacteria love a dry host and hate hydrated hosts because those people are stronger, more energetic, have healthier organs, happier gut flora, and the list goes on and on. I really could go on with hundreds more reasons discussing immune effects like attitude, mood, lack of physical activity, grounding, blue light, screen time, and much more. But that turned into an entire book. The point is, we're doing the exact opposite right now of what we should be doing to build and maintain a healthy immune system to be ready to come out of this lockdown and resume our lives. So what do we do then? Here's my top 7 suggestions to start with, based on what I've learned about the human body as a biohacker and health researcher over the last 34 years. 1. Drink 2 to 4 quarts of clean, filtered water per day. Here's a ballpark way to figure out how much you should have. Take your body weight in pounds, divide by 2, and drink that many ounces each day, spread throughout the day as much as possible. This general formula works great for people who weigh between 100 and 250 pounds, but some may need a bit more or less depending on climate, habits, activity, sweating rate, etc. 2. Eat organic, real food prepared in your own kitchen with your own hands. 3. Stay away from processed food, artificial ingredients, and especially sugar, because that can really hurt your internal buggers. If your food has a label on it, treat it as a warning label, and the longer that label is, the more urgent the warning. 4. Exercise. This can be through xgym online training, xgym app, running, biking, hiking, dancing, learning a new move on TikTok, or anything else that gets you breathing hard. 5. Get out in the sun and or take vitamin D3 supplement. 6. Eat fermented foods like kimchi, sauerkraut, kefir, or all of those, as I do. These foods are packed with probiotics, another word for the good buggers I've been talking about, and will help balance and populate your gut flora. 7. Get outside, roll around in the grass, plant some stuff with your bare hands, play with some earthworms, walk on the beach in your bare feet, dig in the sand with your hands, and then rub your face with those grimy hands. Again, I could go on, but I wanted to keep this post as easy and short as possible so people will actually do it. How many of these 7 things are you doing right now? Give yourself a pat on the back for each one, and then add others, one at a time, but don't wait too long because we're about to come out of this quarantine. I predicted the lockdown weight gain the week the politicians started talking about the concept. And I was right. I sounded the bell, made YouTube videos, told my newsletter subscribers all about it, gave everyone ideas to prevent it, and even started my NEAT contest, and did everything I could to let people know. Now I'm predicting this, and I've got a great record of being right about health and fitness stuff, so please listen and start action now, or you'll be really sorry, sick, and miserable on the other side of this. Our current quarantine quandary, as I call it, is more than just weight gain. It's going to get way worse if people don't become aware of the current setup and start taking drastic measures to protect themselves from the coming waves of infections and illness due to this unforeseen coming crisis that no one seems to be talking about. It's really weird. It's almost like they want another spike. And now with the relaxed death certificate guidelines of including suspected COVID cases, those who die with COVID but not from, as with every other health problem and how it's classified, plus the bonuses paid to hospitals for COVID cases, we won't ever really know the true number, especially with another spike, engineered or not. I don't know the real truth, and none of us probably ever will, but it's certainly one of those things that makes you go, Now, I want to talk about some things about that last paragraph, which might make me sound like a conspiracy theorist. It's an easily verifiable fact that Medicare has determined if you have a COVID-19 admission to the hospital, that hospital will get paid $13,000. If that COVID-19 patient goes on a ventilator, you get around $40,000, even more if they're on it for longer. On top of that, the government pays even more to hospitals for COVID-19 cases in two senses. By paying an additional 20% on top of above listed traditional Medicare rates for COVID-19 patients, and by reimbursing hospitals for treating the uninsured patients with the disease at that enhanced Medicare rate. The CARES Act further created a $100 billion fund that's being used to financially assist hospitals, a portion of which will be used to reimburse healthcare providers at Medicare rates for COVID-related treatment of the uninsured. The CDC guidance, you can look this up for yourself, says that officials should report deaths in which the patient tested positive for COVID-19, of course, or if a test isn't available, if the circumstances are compelling within a reasonable degree of certainty. It further indicates that if a definitive diagnosis of COVID-19 cannot be made, but it is suspected or likely, e.g., the circumstances are compelling within a reasonable degree of certainty, it is acceptable to report COVID-19 on a death certificate as probable or presumed in the top section of the death certificate, effectively classifying COVID as the primary cause of death. This creates death counts that appear to be from COVID instead of the accurate description of the death with COVID in cases where people actually died from another comorbidity but also happened to have COVID either through a positive test or suspected COVID. In some situations, patients are declared to have died from COVID even after a test result came back negative. One such example is a 38-year-old man in Minnesota whose death was attributed to the coronavirus even though he tested negative. The man's mother told the St. Paul Pioneer Press that doctors determined the test result was likely a false negative. Yes, it's true that Medicare payments for similar treatments of other morbidities are also comparable, but minus that 20% bonus. It is certainly easier to say COVID because that diagnosis is not followed up on by local and federal authorities, also clearly stated in the CDC guidelines. That makes it an easy bagger and guaranteed payment, plus the bonus, with no follow-up or accountability. Now, with hospitals being desperate and on the verge of bankruptcy because they were cleared out to make room for the rush of pandemic victims that never materialized, it's just one more thing that makes you go, Okay, now go out and think for yourselves. Don't take my advice. Don't take my opinion. Form your own opinion. Do your own research, like I have, and come to your own conclusion. But whatever you do, just don't listen to sources and form opinions that way. You gotta look at it yourself, especially looking at both sides. And the truth probably lies somewhere in the middle. Okay, now you do it. Do it.
And that's all I have to say about that.